Welcome to The Athletic live from the Toyota studio here on Radio Row in New Orleans. I am Robert Mays. It is Friday. It is the last day of Radio Row. We have gotten to the end of the week. Somehow we have made it. You've been all over the place, Diana. You were red carpet at NFL Honors last night. You're just crushing it.
I'm rested, actually. How?
I'm so jealous.
How? I think I'm just in crazy Super Bowl mode where being tired just isn't an option.
Adrenaline. You got the adrenaline. You will crash. Robert, I have some inside information, is felt the crash starting to creep in here.
It's happening. I flew a little bit too close to the sun. The dinner plans and the staying out late and then getting up early. I'm not the man that I used to be. You look 20 years younger than everyone thinks that you are. I need your secret for how you get through this stuff.
That's
Mike
because
Sando.
I got no friends to go out with late at night, or anything like that. I'm not a late night person. I'm not out drinking very much. I know you're not either, but.
I still like to be out. That's my problem.
Yeah, I don't.
Be out.
We're homebodies.
Night creature.
My wife and I are homebodies. We just kind of, take it slow and quiet. And we laugh. Like we've been those people with the 5 o'clock dinner. You're the only one at the restaurant with a bunch of people that are 40 years older than me. We've been that. We just kind of look at each other and go, yeah. Let's get back at 7.
I feel like you've had a couple 5 o'clock dinners this week just to make sure you're hitting all the restaurants.
No, it's always at 8 p.m. because I want the dinner at 8 p.m. so I have time to take a nap before I go to dinner. It's a whole process. I'm telling you, every step is necessary.
What was your best dinner here?
We talked about this yesterday. I went to a place called Mosquito Supper Club on Wednesday that's kind of family style. It's in like a living room. You sit with other people that you don't know. It's very communal. It was unbelievable. It was like seafood focused and truly one of the better meals I've eaten in the last several months.
Yep.
Great.
Friday at Radio Row, things really crank up. That's when you get the real heavy hitters that start walking through. You talked to Drew Brees a little bit earlier today. Before we get to that interview, I want to walk through what I watched Drew Brees do earlier this morning. We have a little putt-putt set up that our social team has done where everyone that we talk to on Radio Row gets a chance to try to hit a hole-in-one on the carpet about 10 feet from where I'm standing. Other people are putting from 10, 15 feet. I lipped mine out. I almost got it. No one else has got it on the first try, so I was really disappointed. Drew Brees decided that he was going to try to hit one from, I'm not kidding, it's 50 feet away from the hole. And he was standing there for a good 15 minutes trying to hit it in. And that, when you actually think about it, is the least surprising thing ever. Like, to be what Drew Brees was as a Hall of Fame quarterback, you need to be wired like a man who must hit that putt before he walks away.
He's going to make it.
It was incredible to watch it happen in real time.
If you attended Saints training camps when he was the quarterback, you would see at the end of practice the quarterback games that he would have set up after every single practice. I played against him once. He's a lunatic about it. But either way, that competitive spirit is still there, and he just had some really good thoughts on this upcoming game, and just really insightful thoughts as well about Bo Nix in Denver with his former head coach now being the head coach there. So let's take a listen. Let's go somewhere in terms of the quarterbacks playing right now. Just starting with what you're seeing your former coach doing in Denver right now. What do you make of Bo Nix?
Look, I really like him. He's the way that he progressed and matured like throughout the season. I mean, you just kind of watched him grow before your eyes. I knew Sean was excited about him. I texted Sean after the draft, after he drafted him. I was like, "Did you get your guy?" He's like, "We got our guy." He's loved him from the beginning. I think just the amount of experience he had in college, 60+ starts, just the way he was just a distributor of the ball, student of the game. Very accurate both in the short, intermediate, and down the field passing game. And look, you saw glimpses of that early on. I think his athleticism, ability to make plays outside the pocket. But what I saw as the season went on was just the offense open up, right? Kind of the full breadth of it all. And look, Sean wanted to be able to run the ball. I think they struggled early on in the year, but the more that they were able to run the ball, the more that set up the play action. Man, Bo's got a big arm. And I think just his ability to make plays on the move outside the pocket added a whole nother dimension to the offense. Couple that with a top 5, top 10 defense. And look, they were a team that was really making a run at it there.
Do you think that Sean had to show patience with him, knowing that it's going to take a little time for him to fully understand a playbook at the level that you did?
Yeah, I think you have to show patience with any rookie quarterback, especially because it's not just trying to understand the new offense, but it's you're developing chemistry with players, you're understanding the speed of the game, also just kind of what wins and loses in the NFL, right? So I think put all those things together and you knew it was going to be a bit of a process. But I think you also had a young man who, just wants to be great, has a thirst for all that knowledge and just continue to get better and better each week. And I mean, of all 6 of those quarterbacks that got drafted in the top 12 picks, obviously Jaden Daniels had a phenomenal rookie season. I mean, pretty unprecedented. And then I think Bo Nix was right there with him.
You taught me something years ago when describing New Orleans. You said there's Southern hospitality and there's New Orleans hospitality. And I didn't really, at the time, understand what that meant. And after this week, I've discovered what you mean. There's something so special about the people here in New Orleans. For you, how much pride do you take in the fact that everyone has had such a tremendous experience here for Super Bowl week?
Yeah. I take a great amount of pride in that, and I know our city does too. Yeah. I think a lot of cities, they probably don't view tourists the same way we do. Most cities are like, get the tourists out of here. Yeah. Like, honestly, I think New Orleans is like, hey, we embrace it all, right? Just because I think New Orleans is so proud of its culture and of its traditions and everything that we have to offer. And we love to entertain. I mean, look, we throw the biggest parties in the world in Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest and all these things on an annual basis. Like, this is what we do. So to host another Super Bowl and just the proximity of everything here, like, the Superdome is the first thing you see when you come into downtown. And then you've got the French Quarter, and you've got the CBD, and you've got Warehouse District, and everything is walking distance, right? Honestly, everyone is just rolling around, relaxed, having a great time, enjoying great food, enjoying the music, enjoying just all the festivities. And I think this is why this is the best place to host the Super Bowl that there is.
It should just be permanent at this point.
I agree.
That's been my decision.
We got Rob Gronkowski today. We got Bijan Robinson today. We got Jordan Love today. Last night, Hall of Fame vote came in. The decisions about the Hall of Fame class came in. Drew Brees is going to walk in when it's time. I was looking at his stats while that was happening. He has 5,000-yard seasons. I don't think it's going to be a long wait. But there were some surprises. Mike Sando, you are a Hall of Fame voter. Yeah. You are very invested in the process.
Sure.
What about the outcome from last night was most surprising to you?
Well, they got the minimum number of people possible. So I didn't know. They changed the rules a little. They wanted to raise the bar, but I didn't know they would get the minimum. To get 4 is less than I would have thought. The Hall thought it'd be 5 or 6, so this could be telling us something that we maybe have smaller classes. The other thing was, Antonio Gates to me was a no-brainer. I was surprised he didn't make it last year. I perceived in my mind that Luke Kuechly would be that type of player this year, and while Eric Allen and Jared Allen, I have no problem with them being in, I had no idea that they would be the two. I would have guessed probably, I thought Torrey Holt was a little bit, seemed in my perception was a little ahead of those guys in terms of just number of times really making it to the final group. But each year's different. The voters change a little bit, the presentations change, and they're close. So maybe Torrey Holt was leading those guys by 1 inch, and then it shifted, a little shift in the wind, and here we are. But
what keeps Kuechly out in your mind? Because I had the same thought. I mean, he was arguably the best player in the league at his position for like 6 or 7 years. And I know the longevity isn't there, but when you talk about a peak like that, it's surprising to me.
To me, it's only that it was his first year. It has to be. Yeah. So if you look at Eric Allen, he's been up for 15, 17 years. I think, my perception was that Eric Allen really was helped the most through this process. It just seemed like things coalesced around him a little bit. So I wasn't surprised he's in the final group, but I'm with you on Kuechly. I think this, though, don't read who didn't make it as a repudiation of that person, because the math is fickle. And so I think what it means is, just like with Antonio Gates last year, you and I think he's even more elite, that he should go in right now, no matter what, than the body at large. And I guess that's okay. We're not going to all agree. I don't think anyone's sitting in there going, God, Kuechly's not a Hall of Famer. That didn't happen. And that doesn't happen with any of the guys who missed, really. Here's
what I was wondering after, we found out the names and I saw that Eli Manning wasn't named or he didn't get in this time.
Yeah.
I assume he will. I just don't think this was the right time. How do the voters define who goes in the Hall of Fame? That's what I've always wondered because it seems to change for each individual.
It does. There's not an agreed upon by everybody way. So I think this in general. Picking players for the Hall of Fame is more about eliminating people than choosing people, unless it's Jerry Rice or something, right? And what I mean by that is you have a bunch of people that all deserve or have the credentials to go. So you look for blemishes. You look for a reason why I would have to exclude this person. And you feel terrible. Through this process, it's really hard to weed them down. You're leaving off somebody that you could pound the table for. And so for somebody like Eli Manning, it's easier than for some others to exclude because there's a big gap between those 2 Super Bowl runs and the rest of how he played. Nobody over the course of time was necessarily saying, oh my gosh, we got to play Eli Manning this week. If you were on defense playing Eli Manning for most of his career, you thought, hey, we might get a couple picks today. We respect him, but it wasn't the same as playing some of these guys that were just absolute Drew Brees maniacs, out there. But the Super Bowl runs you can't take away. So how do you balance that?
It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to square because if those moments are the most important moments in the history of the NFL, and this in some way is a way to celebrate that history, how you square that, it's not an enviable job.
Yeah, it becomes a
totally
process for somebody like that. For somebody who has a decent reason why they might not make it, I think it takes time for the committee to come around, and then also it has to be the right year. So next year we're going to have Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald joining the crew, and I think Philip Rivers comes up. There's some.
I'm ready for the Philip Rivers wars.
Oh, that's
absolutely. So
he has my sword.
Right, exactly. So you and I would agree that Philip Rivers was a better quarterback than Eli Manning. Yeah. And by quite a bit. But he didn't have those moments because Eli Manning and Archie Manning were smart enough not to go to the Chargers.
I heard someone mention today that the way you should look at the Hall of Fame is if you were writing the story of the NFL, how would you write it with this person being included? And I think that's interesting to keep in mind when you're going. It doesn't mean it applies every time.
Yeah.
It just makes sense because of a player like Eli Manning, you can't write that story knowing that he's beaten the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl.
The last thing I'll ask you, Mike, I'm curious about receivers specifically because there's such a logjam of production at the position, and who gets in and who doesn't is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like Andre Johnson, we were talking about this yesterday. When I close my eyes, Andre Johnson's a Hall of Famer. But you look at the numbers for Andre Johnson compared to a Torrey Holt or a Reggie Wayne, those guys have had to wait. What do you think is ultimately going to be the deciding factor for all those guys who feel so bunched up at that spot?
It's a conversation we've had for years. It used to be Tim Brown and Andre Reed and Chris Carter, and how could you leave these guys out, right? Very difficult to differentiate between them. I think with Andre Johnson, what helped him was a little bit of the eye test.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at this guy and go,
that's the guy. You should listen to that, though.
That's the guy I don't want to have to cover.
Yes.
Myself. If I'm a corner, that's the guy I'm fearing the most. Now, the other guys, great careers, but they end up working against each other because when you get down and have to eliminate, a lot of times you pick one of the guys at that position. So if you decide, you know what, I'm going to go with Wayne, and I decide I'm going to go with Holt, and you decide you're going to go with Steve Smith, then maybe none of them get in.
They split the vote.
So sometimes it took a while for Isaac Bruce to get in, or any of these guys. So sometimes it just magically coalesces around somebody that year in the conversation. The conversations are great. Sometimes the momentum coalesces around a guy and it becomes his time. And it wasn't like people before didn't think he was a Hall of Famer. It's just a different path every year. I used to say this when there were 15 finalists and we would pick 5, there was 3,000 unique combinations of 5 you could have. Each combination would be different than the other. So the final ones that make it aren't necessarily anyone's choices. You think of it that way. Like every voter picked 5. We got 3. So every voter had 2 people they chose that didn't make it. Some voters maybe didn't pick anybody but Gates. Think of that.
Yeah.
So what's coming out isn't necessarily the reflection of any one voter. It's 49 people in a room, and you get a lot of different combinations the way those votes can go.
And that's the previous generation of NFL superstars. We got to talk to a member of the next generation of NFL superstars earlier today, Falcons running back Bijan Robinson. Let's get to that conversation with Bijan right now. Thinking about how to tempo some of those runs and how to set up blocks that are unfolding in front of you.
Yeah.
What are you actually looking at? Is it your guys? Is it defenders? Like, what are you processing in real time when that's happening?
So, like, on that play right there, for outside zone stretch plays like that, you want to always, kind of manipulate the linebackers and the D linemen. So, for me, like, I'm looking at both linebackers and seeing how fast they're flowing. And if they're fast flow, like if they're sprinting out of their break, then I need to slow down. And if they're more so tempoing, then I got to tempo with them and see like what they do, because D linemen are penetrating and they're coming like really fast. So I need to make sure that my blockers are as comfortable as they can, like the O lineman is as comfortable as they can on their block without getting a hold. So for me, like, my eyes are a big thing. So I obviously have my read, but then my eyes looking at linebackers and looking at safeties, and that's why I literally stopped my track, because as I stopped, everybody was still going.
Yeah.
Like, they were still going to the left, like, super fast. So I just slow down, and then I cut back. I like act like I was cutting back, so it put that linebacker on this block, and then it put the other linebacker like around, so he couldn't even come back.
Are you actively trying to do that?
Yeah.
You're trying to attach those guys to those blocks in real time?
Yeah, I am. Like, I'm trying to attach every single block on the defense as best as I can, because as you see on that play, like, everybody got blocked.
Yeah.
But everybody wasn't blocked at first, and then they ended up being blocked.
Beyond the play action stuff, which I think makes total sense, and in that offense specifically, if you don't have the boot game, you're missing like a crucial element of what makes it all work.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
When you include that, everything kind of comes together in a way that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Outside of that specifically, was there anything else you feel like Mike added to the offense that just made you guys feel a little bit more dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, he's just, he's athletic. Like, people forget, like, Mike ran a 4.4 in the pro day.
When he did that, it made no sense.
I know.
Because you watch him play at Washington, it's like, I've never seen you scramble one time.
Yeah.
And the fact he's running a 4.5 is insane.
No, seriously. And I was like, this dude he's really good at extending plays. And even in practice, like, he would extend plays all the time. Like, he would, if a play was shut down, he was gone. Like, he was running. So, like, him having that confidence and him playing against, playing on the scout team for, a lot of the year, like, I think that helped him out a lot, and that helped him, in game, because he got to saw real speed in real time and how things are coming and flying. So, for him, like, besides learning from Kirk, like, he learned from a real defense and a one defense, and I mean, I think that just made him way more comfortable when he got in the game.
It helps that he has a hose.
It does. It helps that he has an older player.
Watching that guy throw is like him. I don't know already. Like 8 games into his career, he's one of my favorite outside the numbers throwers in the league already.
Yeah,
like how he can push the ball to those areas is ridiculous.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And like in practice, we saw it every day. So we were like, in game, it's gonna be effortless for this dude.
Looking at just running backs around the league, I'm sure you watch a ton of guys, study a lot of guys.
Yeah.
If you could steal one trait from another running back in the NFL, what do you think it would be?
I'll probably say Derrick Henry's stiff arm. I think that's for me, like, I think my stiff arm's good, but his stiff arm is, I mean, he made a career out of that stiff arm, and it's extremely impressive, like how he can time it up, how he can just dominate and kill somebody off of it. And I think to his game, like he has a lot to his game, but how he can extend his stiff arm and continue to keep going and continue to extend the play for himself, like that's a cool trait to have. I mean, I think I'm gonna keep working on it, but like his is super elite.
Have you ever been like in the same room as him?
I have not. I've only been on the same field as him.
I'm wondering, like, seeing a running back who's that big. When like, it's almost like a jarring experience when you see it for the first time.
No, for sure. Like last year, my first year, we played the Titans, and like we were both like balling. But then after the game, I was like, yo, like you way bigger than I thought. Like obviously on the field, you see how big he is, but in person, I'm like, this dude's like a true 6'3", 6'4".
One of one. Like truly unlike any other running back that I've ever had in the league. And that's what makes him such a cool player.
No doubt about it.
All right, joining us now on behalf of Bounty, former tight end Rob Gronkowski, now Fox studio host, analyst. You do it all these days.
Thank you very much. The only thing I haven't been doing is my dance moves. Everything's taking up too much time, and my favorite thing to do is dance, and I haven't been able to dance, so I'm not a dancer.
Danny is.
Right now.
Danny Amendola.
And I just saw Danny Amendola, and I told him I'm jealous of him because he's an absolute machine now in the dancing game.
Do you think he's in better shape now than when he was a player?
I mean, he looks better than ever right now, and it sure looks like he's in better shape than he's ever been as well, all from just being on Dancing with the Stars. And that's what everyone says as well when they're done. They're like, I'm in the best shape of my life. Yeah. And it's probably because you use all those stability muscles, and it gets you shredded, and it gets you feeling good, and it gets you active. So congratulations to Danny for absolutely dominating on Dancing with the Stars and just looking so sexy.
When's the last time you did a hard workout to try to be sexy? Like,
I did one like 3 days ago.
Oh, so you're still working out?
Yeah, but it's really tough as well when I'm running all over the place and doing everything else as well. I miss staying active, but I'm traveling all over the place. But whenever I can, I get a good workout. And right before I came here to the Super Bowl, I knew I wasn't going to be able to work out that much. And especially when sleep starts going, I just try to walk only. I don't want to do anything too strenuous because then you can't really recover as much. And then you feel heavy and you feel slow and like the inflammation comes. So like after this week, I'm going to go home and get like on a regimen for like a couple weeks and just start feeling beastly again so I can throw guys like Danny around.
You just described Super Bowl week the most perfect way, because that's what it is.
Yeah,
You
I
don't-
made a
you
lot of the
don't-
mistakes that he
You
just
don't,
lined up.
yeah, you don't work out during Super Bowl week. No, you're on 2 hours of sleep
You know
every
who
night.
does? Max Crosby.
Yeah, well, he must not be doing the things that we're doing. He must only have 2 interviews.
he had like 50,
but-
but he went home and he went to bed at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
He was up at 5 a.m. working out. I'm
Well, exactly though. But he's also a player, and he's not going to any parties then.
Yeah,
Because
no.
once you start hitting the parties, and he
Trouble.
must be getting good night's sleep. If you're getting good night's sleep still, then you can work out.
like,
But we're grinding. We're working 20 hours a day right now. You just walk. You walk. You don't lift.
you've been to so many Super Bowls, and now that you're on the other side of it and you get to experience all this, did you know it was like this when you were focused, locked in, practicing, preparing for Super Bowls, that the rest of the world outside of it is this crazy?
No, not really, because when you're playing in the Super Bowl, like you literally just focus on the game. Like all this crazy stuff that's going on the outside of the game. I mean, it's great for fans. It's great for the NFL. No lie. This is what brings the NFL to a whole nother level. The game is kind of like just another thing.
Yeah.
It's the parties, it's the Radio Row, it's the NFL experience, but the game is the main basis. But I feel like this is what expands the game as well, because everyone gets to feel a part of it. You know, that's what the NFL experience is for. You get to feel like you're part of the game because you get to go out, throw a pass, kick a field goal, talk on Radio Row, see players running around, just all the fun stuff. And all the fun stuff and the entertainment is what brings people out. Definitely.
When you think back on your week of experiences, do they all run together, or were they all different? I'm sure you guys tried to keep it as similar as you could each year.
Actually, right now, everything's running together, especially it's just like this week. My whole football career runs together. I don't even know what catch I had in what year, what Super Bowl was what year anymore. I mean, this week, same. It's been 5 days in a row, and I'm like, wait, what? I did that 3 days ago? Like, I thought I did that 4 months ago. And like, that's how long it feels like I've been here already for. And then, like, something I did yesterday morning, and then 12 hours later, I thought I did that, like, 3 days before
like,
that. I was like, oh, my gosh,
Same
that was
day.
just, same day. Because I'm all over the place, and then I close my eyes for, like, 10 minutes in the car, and I wake up, and it feels like a new day because I finally got, more sleep in the car than I was over nighttime.
When you are watching your very good friend Tom Brady call games this year, was there anything that he did that you texted him about that you're like, hey, you like nailed this, or that was not good?
Yeah, when he talked about me, he nailed it right on the money. Every time he brings up my name, I mean, it's just a big hit, that's for sure. But no, I love Tom, and he has proved the doubters wrong. There's no doubt about that. He did great at the beginning of the year, but I mean, he was under a lot of scrutiny, which is understandable because everyone expects him to be full go, even right from the get-go, but it was kind of like unfair expectations at first. You got to get your feet wet. You got to understand how it works, and you're going to be nervous a little bit. And just the way that he has overcome so many obstacles and just how on point he's been throughout these playoffs has been just spectacular. And I'm sure he's going to take it to a whole nother level for the Super Bowl game as well. But you got to give him some credit, man. Like, he has improved every week in and week out, and now he's at top of his game. And it's just amazing to see. And it kind of shows how good of a role model he is to kids, is that if you put the work in, which he did when he was playing, now he's doing it again off the field in the booth. If you put the work in, kids, you can get to wherever you want to get to, and you can be the best at it.
It feels like this has been a window for people to understand his personality a little bit better. I mean, so you know him on a level that the general public didn't. What's that been like, kind of people understanding what he's like outside of the context where we really knew him?
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's a family man. He's there for his guys. He's there for his teammates. He's there for his friends. No doubt about that. He's a guy that you can trust in any situation as well, unless if it's going out to the club at 3 a.m. You can't trust in him being there. But just overall, on all the real things in life, as a friend, as a family member, as a dad, he's just unbelievable in life. And he does have a lot of personality. I mean, I would say though, like, sometimes he just gets public shy, because it happens to me. Like, when you get in the public, I mean, it does. Like, a lot of people surround you.
You can't lie on Scoop City.
No, it does happen. Like, when I
just
was walking over
overwhelming?
here,
Like,
when I was walking over here, it gets overwhelming, and then like you kind of like you crawl up into like a box because it's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
And he's so big time that it becomes so overwhelming wherever he goes. But a one-on-one setting or just with him, with some friends, he's so great. He's got so much personality. And the roast show that as well, and he's showing it off as well while he's up there in the booth.
So we're
It's
talking
great.
about his rookie season as a broadcaster. Obviously, in New England, they've got rookie Drake May, who I think has been really, really, really impressive. Josh McDaniels is back there. What would you tell Drake May about working with Josh McDaniels?
Oh, I mean, Drake May is going to be open to any ideas that Josh McDaniels has. It just seems like that's the quarterback he is. I mean, Josh McDaniels been there for so long now in the NFL as an offensive coordinator. He helped develop Tom Brady. And Josh McDaniels has been through so many different experiences and so many situations, and he's going to put Drake May in the best possible positions to succeed and use his talents to the best possible ways that he can possibly do it. So Drake May, I would just say be open-minded to Josh McDaniels because he's going to be a great coach for you.
Travis? I
Yeah,
want to know
let's
about
do it.
that.
Yeah, we have
Right.
one more. Yeah.
We were talking right before he walked up, like, do you think Travis is going to retire? If they win and he walks away, how do you think the NFL is going to look at what Travis has done? Would you call him the greatest tight end?
Oh, I mean, Travis has been an unbelievable player in this NFL throughout his whole entire career. What he has done has been nothing but phenomenal, especially for the position at the tight end position. He's even helped out me, and I'm not even playing anymore because the better he does, the more my name's brought up as well because everyone's always comparing us.
Yeah.
The better I was doing, his name was always brought up as well. So it's kind of like he's helping my legacy out, and my legacy's helping him out a little bit, which is just great. I mean, and the way that he goes about himself, you can just appreciate it. I'm a big fan of Travis, and I actually did a one-on-one feature with him yesterday for the Fox pregame show, and I got nothing but love for him, man. I love the way that he represents himself. He credits a lot of his success, to his teammates around him, to the coaching staff, which is just phenomenal to see. He's a team player. And when you're a guy like that, when you put the team first, you're going to have success come your way. Yeah. And that's what Travis has been doing, and I appreciate that in him. And like I said, he has helped taking the tight end position to a new level where it enhances all tight ends as well because of that. So as him as the best football player, we're just going to leave that debate up to everyone else at that position. But if he wins this game, I mean, he's definitely going to be up there as probably the best to ever play, the position at the tight end position, especially if he balls out too.
What are we saying on Monday about this game? So Super Bowl ends. What do you think the headline is on Monday?
I'm going with the Kansas City Chiefs.
The three-peat.
The three-peat has been conquered. That would be the
three-
headline.
Look at
The
that.
three-peat has been
Don't
conquered.
steal
I
that
wanna-
Kansas
feel
City
about
star.
Yeah,
The
I
fact
wanna-
that they would kind of now enter a different realm than the Patriots ever did.
You got to appreciate that, man, because a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of time goes into that. And when you got people doing that, you got players doing that, you can just only give them props for being great like that. Because greatness takes work, it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes sacrifice, and you can't hate on greatness if they put the work in.
Yeah, cool. Gronk, thanks so much for hanging out with
Hey,
us.
thank you so much.
Good luck on your big
And if
broadcast. You nervous?
Thank you. No, if I'm nervous, I just grab a bounty paper towel and just, swipe the nervousness out of me and clean it right up. So thank you to Bounty paper towels for always being there for me whenever I cause a mess. If it's on the field, if it's off the field, if it's while I'm eating chicken wings watching the big game and the sauce gets all over my face, Bounty just cleans it all right up. So thank you.
That TV
Thank you,
makeup
guys.
too. It can get all
Yeah,
that
the
TV makeup
too.
right off.
Exactly, and when Danny comes and tackles me out of nowhere, Amendola, that always causes a mess too. So Bounty cleans up everything no matter what the situation is.
All right, Gronk, thanks so much.
Thank you guys for
Yes.
having me.
That Grunt conversation will be a highlight of my week. Another discussion we had yesterday here at the Toyota studio was with Green Bay Packers quarterback Jordan Love. Me and Derrik Klassen got to talk to him after finishing up our Super Bowl preview. Let's get to that chat right now. The way that you guys have built your personnel on offense, I think there's been a patience to it and a thoughtfulness to it. I remember talking to Brian 2 off seasons ago about how he built the receiver room. He's like, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I want to give these guys every chance to develop as a group, give them opportunities. And I feel like that's good in principle. And in practice this year, you guys kind of bumped up against your ceiling a little bit. And Josh Jacobs came out this week and said, we really need to go get like a number one true alpha within this offense. What do you think about that viewpoint on what you guys need to do at receiver and just how you could potentially take it from where you are now to where you want to go?
Yeah, I think you made great points. Like you said, just the Packers organization is definitely a developmental organization. They like drafting guys and developing their game. And, you can see that right now with a lot of the young, guys we have in the receiver room. And, this is the fun part is we're kind of all developing and going about this thing and this journey together and developing and figuring out ways to get better together. But yeah, like you said, I think anytime you can add good players to an already good offense, it's going to make your team better. I've always said I'm very confident in the guys we have and the talent we have. We have a very deep receiver room, and those guys all do different things very well. But like I said, it's been fun to develop with these guys. And like you said, we hit some hiccups this year. It wasn't as consistent as we would have liked. And there's so many lessons we learned and ways that we can go back and look at the film and be like, okay, this is an area we need to improve. The detail here, just the consistent execution. And obviously we have these spurts of explosive plays and cool. We're putting up a lot of points in games, but it just wasn't as consistent as we would like. So I think the fun part about being able to keep a group together is you can figure those things out together and build it. So we'll see. There's a lot of uncertainty that goes into it. We'll see if we do end up bringing another guy in, what the draft looks like, that whole situation. So I'm not going to get too much into it, but we'll see. We'll see.
We talked to Jordan Love, and we'll get to this a little bit later in the show, about a trait he would like to steal from another quarterback. And Lamar Jackson's name came up. And I think everyone went into last night, Diana, assuming that the guy who was awarded first-team All-Pro at quarterback would win his third MVP award. I'm sitting at dinner last night. We all collectively get notification to our phone, Josh Allen is your 2025 MVP. When you heard that news, how surprised were you?
I knew it was going to be a tight race. I'm a voter in it, and I had a tough time making that pick. I called a lot of different people around the league, players, head coaches, GMs, a few agents, just to see how they were seeing it. And I kind of collected a bunch of different ideas and thoughts, obviously some stats. By the way, an answer I got a lot was Saquon Barkley, not even between Josh or Lamar, which I thought was interesting, more from players. But that being said, in the end, it did not shock me that Josh won. What has shocked me is how passionate people are that we got it wrong.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people really made the case, like I did, that Lamar Jackson deserved that and
what
was the most.
What swung it that way for you?
For me, it was two things. I looked at the pieces around Josh Allen, not on offense, but on defense. He had a better defense than Lamar Jackson did. There were so many times this season where I felt that the Baltimore defense was letting Lamar down, and he was able to uplift the Ravens team and get the win, on top of the fact that I voted for Lamar last year, and he was better than he was last year. So I just thought that was consistent thinking. Still not an easy choice, though. I did flip-flop a little bit, but in the end, that final 3 days, I went all in on Lamar.
Derrik, you and I really broke this down in depth when we did our end-of-season award show a couple months ago on the Athletic Football Show. And we essentially said it's a coin flip. I mean, it depends on who you want to make a case for. I made my case for Josh Allen. You made your case for Lamar Jackson. When you saw that last night, were you a little bit disappointed, or did you understand why it could potentially pivot that way?
Of course I understood why. Like, we even said it on the show. This was like I did vote for Lamar Jackson, or I would have if I had a vote, but it was like 51% to 49% in terms of which way I was actually leaning. It was incredibly close. The only part of it to me that was actually frustrating was Lamar Jackson getting the first-team All-Pro and then Josh Allen getting the MVP. I just think there should be some degree of consistency. Otherwise, we're just being a little bit weird about how we're talking about the award. It feels like 12 years ago we decided to really get into the idea of value being the most important letter out of the MVP. And I just think it's fascinating that, like, this year in particular was the one where we really jumped into that.
This is, again, just my growing softness as I get a little bit older, and I just want everybody to be happy. As I think about how it all shook out, and even going back to last year, we're talking about this a lot this week. One of my biggest regrets in just football discourse over the last couple of years is not standing on the table last year and saying Josh Allen was the most valuable player in the league. I truly regret that. I think he was. I think a lot of people picked Lamar because of team success, and there were a lot of different arguments. The fact that a year later we landed in a place where Lamar gets first-team All-Pro, Josh Allen gets the MVP, I don't think we should be worrying about correcting previous mistakes, but I do think there's an element of that. And I also think outside of a co-MVP, which is silly, and I understand why people wouldn't want that, I like the fact that it was first-team All-Pro for Lamar and the MVP for Josh Allen, because 10 years from now, when we look back on this, I think it will be an accurate representation of how close the race actually was. The fact that we got to celebrate them both in their own individual ways and that they kind of added to their Hall of Fame cases when we get there. I know it probably feels a little bit icky to people and weird now that it shook out this way, but I think history will look back on this the right way because of how those awards ultimately shook out.
It's the way it's been documented now.
Yes.
Because most of the times you'll forget who, we'll call it, the runner-up was. now we can't forget who it was because
That's
it's such
kind
a
of what I
point.
mean.
only
That's a great
happened
point.
3 other times in the history of the league. What was your reaction when you saw it?
I was like, good. Because
Yeah.
I just feel like Josh Allen deserves that sort of recognition. Even the moment last night where he gets to give that speech and he thanks the Bills organization about how the last 7.5 years have gone. I just feel like because Patrick Mahomes exists, it warps how we think about and talk about this quarterback class and this quarterback generation. And so for Josh Allen to get a moment that he deserves based on the type of player he has been, I know it comes slightly at the expense of Lamar Jackson, but we talked about the Hall of Fame telling the story of the league and the story of the NFL over however many years. To me, that's a proper representation of what Josh Allen has been for the NFL over the last 7 years. So I understand that if somebody was going to leave here disappointed, but the way that it shook out, I actually kind of like the way that it shook out.
It's funny that it shook out in the. If you were to try to craft the way that this could irritate the most amount of people, this is probably the way that it would have gone out.
It's
where
like
That's
my
so true.
reactions on the entire other
Right,
end of the
I know,
spectrum where I'm like, I actually
right.
kind of like that. I think
Which
it's
I
kind of
actually
nice.
think is the better take on it, that because it shakes out this way, we're going to remember who the runner-up was. We're going to remember how close it was. And obviously, we're never going to get a co-MVP.
We did once.
Right, we did
Yeah.
once, but like that's the thing. Once in, 60 years of NFL, like it probably wasn't going to happen again. So it is a good way to celebrate both guys. It's just like this was the exact way. Because I think if Lamar Jackson won MVP and then Josh Allen got first-team All-Pro, I don't think there would be quite as much ire because I feel like a lot of people do think Lamar deserved the MVP. But for it being this way, I just feel like it irritated the most amount of people.
The other awards and how they shook out, I mean, I think it really aligned with some of the things we talked about on our award show. Kevin O'Connell won Coach of the Year, totally deserving. I saw him today and said that to him. I think that the job that he did was phenomenal this year with Sam Darnold and that team really sneaking up on a lot of people. And the one that kind of warmed my heart a little bit, Derek, is Patrick Surtain Jr. winning Defensive Player of the Year. We don't usually see it with corners. It takes a special cornerback season. You and I made the argument on that show. There really isn't a pass rusher that jumped above everybody. Like, this is the year where there's a little bit of a void where I feel like you could give it to him. And so to see him do that and to really celebrate the cornerback season that he had, you talked to him yesterday, Diane. I mean, that's a really cool moment for somebody at that spot that they often get overlooked when it comes to that award specifically.
I really wanted to force him when I spoke with him on the red carpet last night to brag a little, like to talk about himself. I was
He's
like,
a saving guy.
So I said it very just like nonchalantly. I was hoping that maybe he just didn't understand that I knew that he had the kind of year he did. So I was like, so what was your season like? Like, I actually asked that question. He's like, well, I think I had a pretty good year. It was just like so humble. But it's so deserving. I feel like the conversation of him getting Defensive Player of the Year started so early this season. The chatter began. Whereas I feel like with these others, you have to wait a little bit. You want to see more. To me, it was just it was a sure thing.
One of my favorite things about last night, Joe Burrow's response to winning Comeback Player of the Year, and be like, you don't want to win this multiple times. And even Josh Allen, this is a celebration of one of the greatest player development stories we've ever seen. His fiance is there. She's a movie star. His parents are crying. It should be this culmination. And I think even last night, there was like a tinge of sadness where he's sitting there holding that trophy knowing he would much rather not be in that building. And so all of these AFC quarterbacks who are winning awards and are superstars, they're a little bit broken because of what the last few years have felt like, and this team being in the AFC, in the Super Bowl again out of the AFC.
It's just funny that we're doing it again. Brady left a trail of broken AFC quarterbacks behind him, and a lot of them were during the regular season some of our favorites to watch. Guys like Phillip Rivers and like what he was able to do. And so
We've mentioned Phillip Rivers twice on this show. The agenda is working.
The week is almost over, and I might find a way to do it again before this show is over. But the fact that we're doing this again, where we have another great quarterback leaving a trail of, honestly, for as great as some of the guys like Roethlisberger and Rivers were, I think you can make the case that guys like Allen and Burrow and Lamar are even better than that.
I think that's absolutely true.
More insane that those are the guys that are being left kind of broken by this just guy who just doesn't lose.
Yeah, we have two Peyton Mannings in this group, where we only had one Peyton Manning while Tom Brady was playing. Speaking of the AFC and stars in the AFC, you, Derek, actually got to talk with Kyle Hamilton of the Baltimore Ravens earlier today. Let's get to that chat right now.
All right, first I got to review a little bit about the national championship. You got one teammate from Ohio State. How was the run-up to the national championship? Did you guys have a bet on it? How did all that go?
Yeah, it was more just bragging rights. Malik Harrison, are you referring to?
Malik,
so Malik's a good dude. Really cool guy. I love Malik. But, everybody was talking trash about Notre Dame. Roquan beat them. Dafe Owe beat them. Indiana, we weren't really even worried about. That was like a bye week. And then it got to national championship. I was like, damn, like this is our year. And didn't go that way. But, I think it instilled a lot of confidence in the program.
What to you in the NFL has been like the biggest challenge? And you can take that in any direction. You cover everybody, receivers, tight ends, backs. Who is like the one guy when he's on the other side, you're like, all right, we're in for a day?
Yeah, I've said this before, but my rookie year, Amari Cooper was a tough matchup. He just very sudden and powerful, great hands. He's just efficient in his route running. And I was 21 out there trying to do my best against him. I think I did pretty good, but he still got me a few times for sure. And I think he's super underrated.
That's an awesome answer, because anytime you ask this question, it's a lot of A.J. Brown and Jamar Chase and the typical answer. So I think that's a really awesome one. Shout out somebody who's a little bit underrated.
And every player that has rolled through here this week, we've asked the same question, and it was, which trait would you steal from another player in the league at your position? So I wanted to turn this on you now, and on Derrik as well. If you could steal a trait from another reporter, another analyst, what would that be for you?
I am very slow tweeting, like typing, and I make a lot of spelling errors and grammatical errors, and I've been amazed at some of the people around the league that cover football, how quickly they can attend a press conference and type up what the coach or player is saying.
True.
And I just opened the app. I'm like, I'm not even there yet. How is that out? And
those beat guys are forged in the fire.
It holds me back, though. Truthfully, I've thought of this before. I'm like, I have to come up with a way that I can get information out faster where I wouldn't have to type it. And you guys sit next to me, so you hear me whispering a lot to myself. That's because I do talk to text like I'm 65 years old, because I can't type well. Maybe it's just my fingers. I don't know.
You and my mom.
I know.
Yeah,
my mother does too. So does my father. They're 70.
The speech detect is it's a good audible, though. You're working with the tools that you got. It's good.
I'm trying to make it work because I have no choice, but I just want the BlackBerry to come back. Bring the BlackBerry with that
I'm
little
sure
keyboard.
You can get your hands on one if you wanted one.
I bet you. I know. I need to look into it. I was better there, less errors. So if you do follow me on Twitter, you know this. Like, I make a lot of mistakes there. It's not my fault. My brain is in the right place. My fingers are just too fat.
Well, let Diana know where she can get a BlackBerry, because I'm sure there's one available somewhere in the world. Derrik, same question for you. You get to steal one trait from someone in our business. Who is it and why?
Mine is actually, I think, one of my favorite people to come across on social media whenever he posts his videos is Brian Baldinger. There is an enthusiasm to the way that this man talks about the sport that I deeply envy. And I love the sport. I really love my job, all of that. You can tell Brian Baldinger wakes up every single day and is like, it's the craziest thing in the world that I get to do this. He's so excited to show you some crazy second quarter block that probably nobody else in the world cares about. He just brings a level of enthusiasm that is very, very hard to find, and if I could capture that, I would.
There's something so beautiful about knowing that he's going to NFL Films in New Jersey to do this. Mm-hmm. So he's just like rolling up first thing Monday morning, turning on the tape, and there's nowhere else in the world Baldy would rather be than right there in that room rewatching those games. I'm going to flatter you before we get out of here.
Sure.
If I could steal one trait, watching you do your job over the last couple of years has been a pleasure. And I've learned a lot. And I think that there's a level of kind of like a tenacity and a Teflon to how you go about your job, where you're always making connections, you're always kind of pushing with people, and you take none of it personally. I think that's hard to do. It's hard to push through that when you're somebody in our business and in our spot. And I think that your ability to just keep pushing forward all of the time, I've learned a lot from it, and I really appreciate it.
Are you just really tired right now and emotional?
I'm
because you're making me emotional. That was so kind. I thought you were going to say my jacket.
No, I would.
Well, it is a fantastic
I literally
jacket.
was, because you're so great with fashion. You love fashion. I was like, oh, he's gonna want the male version of this. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, there's a lot going on here, and I think it's kind of survival mentality, because there's just so much going on. So hopefully we're able to get some good guests on the show this week, due to the fact that I have no shame.
Let's get to some of the guests we already got this week. We're actually going to show you a supercut of the answers we got to that question from the players that we chatted with this week.
If you could steal one single trait from another receiver in the league, what do you think that would be?
Tyreek Hill's speed. 100%. Can you imagine being 6'4" and strong and being the fastest player like in the NFL? I mean, that's like Calvin Johnson, right?
Ooh, give me Xavier Worthy for sure, or Tyreek Hill. Like, let me run 4.2 with waking up right out of bed and phew, out of there. Everybody's been saying that.
Bro, why wouldn't you want Tyreek? No. What? I'm cool. I'm definitely.
You think you're good?
Like,
I'm not a Tyreek fan, but I mean, I get the job done.
If you could steal one trait from another player at your position, what would it be?
I'll probably say Derrick Henry's stiff arm. I think that's for me, like I think my stiff arm's good, but his stiff arm is, I mean, he made a career out of that stiff arm.
Yeah, I'd say Derek Stingley ball skills, Devin Witherspoon instincts are elite, J.C. Horn's feet are elite. Maybe trash talk. Who's a good trash talker at DB? Maybe Chauncey. Chauncey talks a lot of trash.
A.J. Brown's his deep ball. Him and Jalen Hurts' deep ball is like unmatched.
And you're allowed to say you have it all. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't have it all. I would say Miles is like one person that I really look up to. Miles Garrett, just as far as like the rush and stuff, the way how you can bend the corner a little bit more.
Lamar Jackson and his speed and elusiveness.
What I've learned this week, every single guy in the NFL wants to be like 20% faster.
I feel like Lamar Jackson's running ability. Like, that just sounds fun. Like
Jordan Love
I
said
want
the
to be
same
able to
thing
like.
yesterday. You guys have no imagination. Everyone just wants to be faster.
That sounds so. Does like y'all? You see what he can do? Like that sounds. That feel like that looks like so much fun.
Everybody can do a lot of really cool things with their arm. You know, that's what we're here for. And then I think what kind of separates guys and guys like Lamar is that speed and his ability to run the ball.
With all the craziness this week, sometimes it's easy to forget there's a football game that's being played on Sunday. That's why we've all arrived here. So this is that moment. Let's talk about that game, and let's talk about what we think is going to happen in that game. Diana, your prediction for Super Bowl 59 is what?
Gosh, I just got nervous because you're right. Like I haven't spent that much time thinking that we're here for a game. Gronk was the best at articulating that, actually. I think that's the first time anyone has ever said that out loud, that Gronk articulated something better than they did. I think this is the year for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think strength is going to outdo strategy this time. I think the talent is going to be too much for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think not only are the Eagles going to win this game, but I think Saquon Barkley is going to be the Super Bowl MVP.
I love this. Derek and I picked the same outcome yesterday. As I sat with that for like 12 hours, I wanted to go back on it, but I think that's a cowardly move. So I'm going to stick by my original prediction. I had 24-20 Chiefs. I'm going to stand by that, even if I do think there's a very real chance that you are right and the Eagles win this game.
I am also standing by it, 24-20 Chiefs. I do like the idea, though, the phrasing of strength is going to outdo strategy. That's a great tagline for the game. If the Eagles win it, somebody's going to steal that. You need to get on that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I literally just came up with that on the
It's
spot.
good. It's
Well,
good.
because you think about it, right?
That's right.
It makes all the sense in the world because they do have better coaching, in my opinion, from a strategy standpoint and even just an experience.
Yep.
But look, this thing can go either way. I think this is what's making this one such a good Super Bowl. I just want to see what the scene will be like for the Chiefs if they were to win, because as someone who's down on the field after these wins and have been there with Kansas City a lot, they're happy, yes. But they're so programmed to think about next that now that they've reached the goal, it was to get to 3. I want to see if this is a reaction that's going to blow us away.
Every game that the Eagles have won in these big moments, you felt like this tsunami of talent. It's just overwhelmed the team that they're playing against. That's how talented that roster is. That's on the table. The problem is, on the other side, you have arguably the greatest player that we have ever seen. And so that battle between the tsunami of talent and the greatest quarterback I've ever watched play football, I can't wait. And we are now about 48 hours away. It's been a great week. I've enjoyed spending it with you guys, and we've really enjoyed spending it with Toyota in the Toyota studio. Sincere thanks to Toyota for setting this up for us, for getting us so many of these great guests. It has been a wonderful week in New Orleans. If you've joined us for any of these live streams, we sincerely appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if that's where you're watching it. Please subscribe to Scoop City and the Athletic Football Show, wherever you get your podcasts. We will be coming to you live on Sunday night from the stadium, breaking down Super Bowl 59. So please come check that out. For now, that's all we've got from the Athletic Live. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll talk to you very soon.